Good Wednesday afternoon. Jerry Miller, welcome to the I Love CVille Show. It's good to be with you. We are live in Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille network. We're presented by Ting Crazy Fast Fiber Internet. We have a gateway link for you to save $288 on fiber internet for you. ilovecville.ting.com. Get those on screen. Thank you, Ray Cadell, for sharing the show. Thank you, Barbara Lundgren, for sharing the show, guys. Live across the I Love CVille network with a lot to cover, including the University of Virginia, a 2-week delay. We're going to go into the virtual education mode for a little while, at least for 2 weeks. Frankly, I think this is going to be the start of an entire virtual semester. Time will tell on that. We have an update on the colleges across the Commonwealth and what they're going to do. Accreditation in public schools, that's not going to happen anymore, at least to 2022. That is something that we should watch very closely as parents. These standardized accreditations that are offered by the Commonwealth for public schools across Virginia are how we keep our educators accountable, how we hold them accountable, how we hold them honest, how we make sure they're doing their jobs well. Now, because of COVID-19, that infrastructure is paused at least through 2022. Which is shocking and disappointing. That story on the I Love CVille show. We're going to be talking about how the University of Virginia corner is going to be impacted by a 2-week delay at UVA. We'll talk about Hampden-Sydney and its president, the president of Hampden-Sydney College in Farmville, writing a letter that he wrote in the Richmond Times-Dispatch about the value of in-person education, and we'll compare and contrast that mindset to some of the other colleges in the Commonwealth, and a lot of UVA sports news, including Joe Harris going bananas in a contract year for the Brooklyn Nets, Malcolm Brogdon doing some amazing things, and guys, the Uconn football team has now canceled its football season, at least in 2020, the first of the FBS programs. A lot on today's docket. Give it a like and a share. I think we need to first thank some amazing sponsors like Interstate Pest and Service Companies for being a part of this show. There are 4 generations of family Interstate Pest and Service Companies, proudly serving Charlottesville and Central Virginia. Interstate Pest and Service Companies, and Scott Wagner of Scott Wagner Chiropractic and Sports Medicine. That guy and his team, amazing chiropractic care, sports medicine, and physical therapy. And our newest sponsor is Ting. I mean, it's fiber internet. It's the best internet out there. We have a code, a gateway link, ilovecville.ting.com, and Judah Wickhauer, our director, get it on screen, where, guys, you can get a free month of fiber internet and free installation. It's not offered anywhere else but I Love CVille. It's $288 in savings. Get the fastest internet possible right now, guys. All right. Let's get to headlines on a gorgeous Wednesday. Get ready. This is a loaded show. Judah, give me the thumbs up when they air. We'll start with UVA delaying in-person education for 2 weeks. All right, let's talk about the positives. The positives are this. A number of folks, a lot of folks in our community, very nervous, very fearful of 25,000 UVA students returning to Charlottesville, returning to grounds with a sense of freedom. We're partying, we're in college, we're independent away from our parents. Let's get after it. Let's not focus on keeping COVID, the numbers down. Let's instead live college and 4 years of our lives like all of us have, like many of us have, and let's go after it hard every day. And there's many folks in our community that were very trepid that was going to happen. Would that have happened? Of course, a portion of the UVA student body would have partied in Charlottesville, would have taken rip shots at the bars on the UVA corner, would have drank beers at the Biltmore, at the Virginian, would have taken, Jaeger bombs at Orbit, at Trinity. Of course, we would have ripped Orange Crushes and had IPAs, and of course a portion of them would. Okay? So from a positive standpoint, delaying in-person education at the University of Virginia, making it virtual for the first 2 weeks, yes, from a health standpoint, that's good. From a negative standpoint, and there's negatives to every decision, we now have kept the students from returning, and I'll get to that in a second about them returning to CVille, but UVA is now encouraging students not to return to CVille. And there's a number of businesses, particularly on the UVA corner, in Barracks Road Shopping Center, in Midtown, and downtown, locally owned businesses that it was critically important to these locally owned businesses owned by our neighbors, our friends, long-standing citizens and stewards of the community. It was critically important for these businesses to have these students arrive with mommy and daddy's credit card, eager beaver to spend money at their retail, at their restaurants, at their bars, at their experiential retail establishments. Okay? And not having these students will negatively impact businesses and create more closures in the small business arena in Charlottesville, especially in the corridors that are directly tied to UVA student engagement for commerce and keeping their rent paid and their lights on. Okay? So that is a frank and real conversation. That is reality that will happen. We are being cautious with the spread of COVID by encouraging students not to return to Charlottesville. UVA is doing. But the fatal flaw and the collateral damage of that approach is there will be a loss of jobs and closures. And we have to admit and be realistic about that. And that's facts. Facts, facts, facts. Now let's get into the UVA announcement. This does not apply to graduate students. Graduate students older, more seasoned, more mature, probably more inclined to stop the spread of COVID. So this does not apply to graduate students or professional programs. They're going to start as previously planned. Furthermore, and watch this closely, UVA does not control when students living off grounds return to Charlottesville. Students living off grounds are in the midst of leases already. And these students, trust me, I was one of them. I'm seeing no headlines on screen there, Judah. Just a heads up. And these students, boys and girls, are the ones that want to get away from mom and dad. They want to get to their apartments. They're still going to come to CVille. They have leases they're under contract for. UVA, Jim Ryan, and the administration, the board of visitors, the professors, they cannot control these students going to leased properties off grounds. That will happen. What they can control is they can control students living on grounds, like Lambeth, old dorms, new dorms, whatever it may be. Now, interestingly, in this release, they said students will be able to arrive, even the ones that are living on grounds in student housing, those students will be able to arrive several days before the semester starts, which is interesting. So they're still coming early. In-person instruction now begins September 8th, but students will be able to move into residence halls several days before September 8th. Guys, this will have an effect on businesses. Please understand. And please get those headlines on screen, Judah Wickhauer.
I'm working on it.
The next headline I'd like to cover is the Virginia Commonwealth University professors. Get that one on screen, please. VCU's professors, over 100 of them, have now signed an open letter to the president of VCU. And this open letter is asking the VCU administration to go entirely virtual for the fall. This is right on the heels of the UVA announcement. Over 100 VCU professors have signed and written a letter to VCU leadership asking for an entire fall virtual semester. I'm going to cut to the chase. It's time to be frank and honest. I think anyone that is not thinking this way is not being realistic with themselves. I'm a betting person. The odds are more in favor that 2020 is going to end up virtual for all of the fall semester. Hampden University has already done it. Randolph Macon, Virginia State University, Christopher Newport University, Old Dominion University, William and Mary College. They have all announced a delay to the fall semester. It's worth repeating. UVA, delay fall semester. Randolph Macon, delay fall semester. Virginia State University, delay fall semester. Christopher Newport University, delay fall semester. William & Mary College, delay fall semester. ODU, delay fall semester. Hampton University, the entire fall semester, virtual already. I'm only seeing Hampden-Sydney College right now, and its president, you could get that headline on screen, the president of Hampden-Sydney has straight up wrote a letter in the Richmond Times-Dispatch about the value of in-person instruction in Farmville at Hampden-Sydney College. Is that the thumbs up for that being on screen?
No, which one is that?
Hampden-Sydney College, UVA, Hampden-Sydney professor. That headline is Larry Stimpert is the president, Judah. He writes a column in the newspaper saying, look, we're going in person in Farmville, and we're going to do it better than anybody else. The value proposition for a small private college has never been stronger. And frankly speaking, he's right. And when I tell you the next story that I'm about to give you, where accreditization, thank you, where schools are not going to be accredited anymore, you're really going to see the value of small private schools. I hate to say that. So Hampden-Sydney College now is straight up saying the value for in-person with us is never better than what it is now in Farmville. We 100% are going to go in person at Hampden-Sydney College, and parents that pay the tuition, we're welcoming you to see the standards of cleanliness we're going to implement in Farmville at Hampden-Sydney College, and we're even increasing enrollment to get the parents and the kids that want the in-person education. It's important to them. Richmond Times-Dispatch, the president of the school wrote the letter. So you're seeing this dichotomy. You see what's happening? Do we see what's happening? The same thing that's happening in public schools, at high school, middle school, and elementary school. The same thing is happening now at the collegiate level. You have big public school systems that teach kids elementary, middle, and high school. Big, bureaucratic, state-funded public school systems that have not really evolved or improved I take that back. They have evolved and improved, but not at the rate that they should. We know that. Public school systems that are still learning in antiquated buildings with bad ventilation, in dimly lit buildings, okay, as opposed to more innovative structures that we're seeing. Look at what you're seeing. You're seeing public school systems across America, certainly in Virginia, certainly in Central Virginia. These public school systems are having a difficult time quickly pivoting, quickly moving. They're so bureaucratic. It's almost as if it was like trying to get a rusted Model T or a rusted horse-drawn carriage going fast and going quickly in one direction. Conversely, you see a private school system in the Commonwealth and across America, and a private school system that is pivoting quickly at the high school, middle, and lower school level, that is offering in person, that is leveraging outside education and their vast campuses, that is leveraging technology at a greater frequency and clip. We're seeing the same struggles now at the collegiate level. We're seeing these big public entities like UVA in a VCU, and these UVAs and the VCUs are so big and so entrenched in their ways that they can't mobilize and flip and pivot at the speed necessary in COVID. And you're seeing the Hampden-Sydney colleges of the world pivoting and saying, look, we're doing in-person. And how we're doing in-person is leveraging outside classrooms, technology in this way, these kind of cleaning products, and even most importantly, we have a small student body, just like the private schools at the high school, middle, and lower school levels in Virginia. They have small student bodies, and the value proposition of these small student bodies are making them more malleable, pivotable, and controllable. And it sucks. And why it sucks is because the folks that have money are clearly have the opportunity to get an in-person education. Now even at the collegiate level. And think about your son or daughter, think about your brother or sister, or consider how you were as a student. How many of you needed a face-to-face interaction with your peers and your instructors to grasp and learn the material? How many of you learned the material through discussion with your classmates when people were raising their hands, asking questions? How many of you needed to hear a teacher explain the chapter in calculus or AP physics or AP chemistry, algebra true trig, AP US history, AP English? How many of you needed to hear the teacher outline and explain it in person as opposed to just reading it online or in a book? So many of us, right? It's crazy, man. It's such a dichotomy. So the update on the other colleges, Randolph Macon delaying in person, William and Mary delaying in person, as is Old Dominion, as is Christopher Newport University, and Virginia State University. Hampden University is 100% virtual in the fall, and now VCU professors are asking VCU leadership to go 100% virtual. Now let's go to the next headline. COVID, are you seeing what COVID is doing to education, guys? COVID is steamrolling archaic education. COVID is steamrolling archaic educational infrastructure and archaic educational bureaucracy at the same momentum, fierce, and clip as it's steamrolling restaurants and brick and mortar, person-to-person businesses. It's steamrolling this stuff. Now look at what's happening to public schools from a getting accredited standpoint from Virginia. Get that headline. I mean, look at the screen. Guys, if you're not scratching your heads and saying, what the holy, is happening here? If you're not saying, a Hail Mary right now about public schools through 2022, folks, not just through 2021, but through 2022, public schools will not be accredited by Virginia. They will stop doing this. This is how we hold public schools accountable. Virginia's accrediting body will not grade or score the public schools across the Commonwealth, elementary, middle, or high school, through 2022, maybe longer. Okay? That's literally like not giving report cards on the teachers and the administrators on the jobs that they are doing, but still giving the report cards to the students. That frankly speaking, should terrify you. The accreditation system is how, and it's not perfect. It is not perfect. But this system is how we hold schools accountable. And Virginia is now saying we're not going to have this system at least through 2022. Good night. I said earlier this week that I don't think the public school systems are going to be back into play until 2023 because of COVID. You're seeing that accreditation is going to be paused until 2022. So that statement I made, perhaps very much coming to fruition sooner than we thought. The next headline's from King's Dominion, and for the first time in 45 years, King's Dominion will close for an entire year. King's Dominion, a fabulous theme park, a theme park of enjoyable proportions, phenomenal roller coasters, and give me the thumbs up, please, when that's on screen, Judah. A theme park that is the best collection of adrenaline and thrill-seeking roller coaster riders in Virginia is King's Dominion. I think the best overall theme park in Virginia is Busch Gardens. And Busch Gardens is opening, and they're opening Thursday in a limited event. I have that story for you in a matter of seconds. But King's Dominion, I think, is the best collection of dope, super fast, rush, get that feeling, the butterflies in your stomach roller coaster rides. This joint ain't opening for all of 2020, fellas and ladies. 4,000 people seasonally employed by King's Dominion. It's a huge employer. 4,000 people, no jobs for 2020 because King's Dominion is not opening. 4,000 people found out no jobs today. King's Dominion not opening. King's Dominion rival Busch Gardens, I think the overall best experience for a theme park is Busch Gardens. I mean, King's Dominion's got the asphalt you're walking on. It's a little hectic and busy, and I'll leave it at that. Busch Gardens, you're drinking beer, you're walking around the park, you're on cobblestone, you got the history element, you got beautiful women in pageantry costumes walking around you, you're drinking an IPA, you're hanging out with your family, you're seeing your kid having a good time, it's shaded, there's animals. Busch Gardens is where it's at. And I'm not just saying it because I'm from Williamsburg. The Busch Gardens experience is legit. And you can tag team it the next day with Water Country USA and really get a Euro Splash experience. God, Euro Splash Busch Gardens should be a sponsor of this show, Judah. Let's write that down. We could drive them so many freaking tickets. I know it's COVID, but we should write that down. Busch Gardens is opening this Thursday, limited capacity, in a phenomenal event called Coasters and Craft Brews. I mean, it is exactly what you think. You drink craft beer and you ride roller coasters. They're opening for only 2,000 people so they can be safe and socially distanced. 2,000 people. But dude, who wouldn't want to drink cold beer and ride roller coasters? I mean, that sounds like one of Jerry Miller's perfect afternoons right there. Give him an IPA. You give Jerry Miller an IPA, and he's like a cat with a sleeve of Ritz crackers and some squirt cheese whiz. I mean, you give a cat a sleeve of Ritz crackers, and those Ritz crackers have some squirt cheese whiz on it, that cat's going to be happy. That's me at Coasters and Craft Brews Thursdays at Busch Gardens. So Busch Gardens is opening, Kings Dominion is not. I mean, COVID, man. Jeebus, COVID. Give the show a like and a share. Give it a like and a share. Hayley Shifflett is going to join us in about a minute. Hayley Shifflett is a standout softball player at Monticello High School. When Charlie Scott, friend of this program, Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe Charlie Scott was at one time. Is he still? Maybe he is not. I know at one time he was. I used to do sports for the Daily Progress, NBC 29, and ESPN. So I used to know the sports scene here locally extremely well. Charlie Scott, in a post that we had on Facebook to promote today's show, he was at one time the softball coach at Albemarle High School. He said of Hayley Shifflett, that young lady is an absolute stud on the softball field. She has a bright future at the next level. And for Charlie Scott to say something like that, that's big time. Because Charlie Scott doesn't offer compliments like that to just about any other athlete, and he's been around sports all his life. Kelly Lewis says she loved the cat and cheese comparison. Dude, who is not happy with a sleeve of Ritz crackers and some cheese whiz on each cracker? I mean, I can eat that entire sleeve of Ritz crackers in one sitting. And you see a cat go after it? That's like being roller coasters, Kelly. I'm serious. Ray Cadell, University of Mary Washington is moving in this week, by the way. They're a smaller school, a public state school. That's from Ray Cadell in the comment section. My daughter's lease, Ray Cadell says, at the University of Mary Washington started July 1. She came home early from studying in Paris, hung out a couple of months, but she is in her little house in Fredericksburg right now. So he's completely, acknowledging what's going to happen in Charlottesville. Just because UVA classes are delayed, boys and girls, does not mean that the students in its second, third, and fourth years, because on first year you have to live on grounds at UVA. I went to UVA. First year you have to live on grounds. I was old dorms, Dabney 101. Dated a girl third floor at Dabney. That was called dorm cess. That was a no-no, but I broke the rules. First years can't. They may take the hiatus. They'll come back the day UVA allows students on grounds. It's several days before in-person classes start. The day UVA students are allowed, you'll start seeing them move them in. But the second and third years and the fourth years, they're probably here now. That's why you saw them partying at Midsummers, and that's why all this brouhaha and all this mumbo jumbo and all this scuttlebutt and all this tomfoolery started. Because some kids, and wouldn't we be doing it 18, 19, 20? Dude, 37-year-old Jerry, 36-year-old Jerry, maybe if he sees keg stands on Grady Avenue, maybe going over and taking keg stands on Grady Avenue. I just got to be straightforward with you, okay? I'm just being straightforward with you. All right, we're going to get to Hayley here in a matter of moments. In fact, 45 seconds. I'm going to get to Hayley Shifflett, standout softball player, Monticello High School senior. This is the question I have before we get to it. Guys, if you're a senior in high school and you play fall sports, and you have aspirations of playing collegiate sports at some level, maybe it's Hampden-Sydney, maybe it's Longwood, maybe it's JMU, maybe it's William & Mary, maybe it's UVA, maybe it's Virginia Tech, ACC, Notre Dame, whatever it may be. How are you getting the necessary exposure from the college coaches now? If you play fall sports and it's your senior year, and you're not a big-time blue-chip recruit for football, the big-time blue-chip recruits for football, basketball, baseball, they already know where they're going. But the ones after that rely on the blue chips to get placed, the power conferences to have their rosters full. Once the power conferences have their rosters full, then you see the next tier of programs start filling their rosters. So a lot of this roster filling is still happening. And a lot of this roster filling at the high school level, matriculating to the college programs, it's happening by exposure on the playing field in the fall and the spring of this year. How are you getting that exposure if you're a standout recruit? I'm going to ask Hayley that question. Judah, it's ringing right now. I'm looking forward to this interview. First time in a little while, we've had someone from the high school level on the I Love CVille show, and I'm excited for this. Hayley, you are live for Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille show. Charlie Scott had this to say about you before the show, that you were a stud on the softball diamond and that you had a bright future at the next level. So I wanted to throw that to you. When I'm hearing about high school softball players and I'm not really covering sports, that means you got a lot of talent, lady. Before we go down that road, how about an introduction to you and what you were all about as a person, Hayley?
So my name's Hayley, obviously. I play softball and volleyball. Softball is mostly like my main sport, and that's sort of what I'm going to do to play in college. Yeah, and I'm going to be a senior at Monticello High School.
That's awesome. So how long have you been playing softball?
Since I was 7, so about 10 years.
Okay, so you have a lot invested into softball. So, like,
Yes.
I mean, this is a long time you've been playing this. How important, how does a standout softball player get seen to get placed in college or have a college coach look at her and say, she can play for my team at the collegiate level? How does that work?
So before COVID, it was kind of like you needed to email them, text them, be like, hey, coach, like, come watch me, that sort of thing. I'll be at such and such tournament. But now it's a little different. So now, like, we're streaming. It's a streaming service called Athletes Go Live. And so they're watching more like over video and over streaming services.
How do you feel like that's going? Is it going well?
I think it's going pretty well. Athletes Go Live is a relatively new service, but it's going pretty well so far.
How about, Hayley, the impact on COVID just on your sports playing? I mean, has it kept you guys from playing? Are you practicing more, playing less games? Are you working more on fundamentals and less on, like, actual live action against opponents? I mean, your thoughts?
So we started practice once, like, the state of Virginia kind of opened up, was like, hey, like, you can do voluntary practices, that sort of thing. So we kind of jumped on that, and then we were waiting for our tournament schedule to see, like, what sort of would happen, and it changed a little bit, but we were still able to play a couple tournaments, and we just actually finished up this weekend.
Awesome. So playing softball at the next level to you means what? I mean, when you've been doing this for this long, I mean, you've been playing softball longer than a lot of people have been in a career. And I'm saying that to kind of put in perspective the blood, sweat, and tears that you've put into this sport, because I'm sure it has not been, all happy times. I mean, you've had a lot of success in softball. I'm sure there have been some tough times. What does playing college softball mean to you, and why?
College softball is sort of like my big dream right now. Like, it means a whole lot to me, and I've put that many years into it, so I'm really trying to, like, push myself and just, like, make sure that I can reach my...
We wish you the best. How about what to expect from the softball season? What should we look out for locally? Who are some of the players and teams to watch out for, Hayley?
Honestly, I'm not entirely sure because we haven't played in a whole year. We obviously missed out on our spring season, and we'll play this upcoming spring, but it'll be a completely different schedule, and we won't play necessarily the same teams that we would in a normal season. So I'm not entirely sure. I mean, obviously go Mustangs, but
Monticello
we'll see
Mustangs. Your dad is the coach,
yeah.
Right?
Yes, sir.
What is that like, coaching and playing with your dad in softball? What's that like?
He's always been my coach, so it's not really anything new. He pushes me and he's really hard on me, but it's always a good thing. Like, I know he just wants what's best, and I have like my mom and my sister obviously to like support me and be kind of like the positive people, and then he's kind of like pushing me.
I like it. I like that dude. I like that dude already. I think that's how I'm going to do it with my boy too. Okay, how about school stuff? School stuff. I mean, you and your classmates, I mean, how are you feeling? I mean, you're going into your senior year. Okay, the senior year is, you only get one senior year. I mean, this is supposed to be like the sweetest, coolest, like most awesome freaking year ever. I mean, my senior year, I was just lucky to graduate and get into UVA. I almost blew everything that I did at that point because I lost my eyes on the prize. Anyway, long story short, how are your classmates thinking about senior year? I mean, you're going to learn virtually. What's that going to be like?
It'll definitely be different. I know I'll miss the social aspect, like just seeing my friends and seeing my teachers, that sort of thing, but I'm sure we'll be able to, like, it won't be the same as every other seniors, but we'll figure out like our own sort of new things, like new traditions to start, so we'll see what happens.
How was the learning in the spring? Was it legit learning, do you think, or not really legit?
It was, I would say it was moderate. They kind of gave us it was continued off of what we had already been learning, maybe a little bit of new stuff, but it was just kind of mostly prep for the AP exams and that sort of thing.
Nice, good answer. Hardest part about learning virtually, Hayley?
I think the hardest part was not having, I'm a visual learner myself, so I definitely like to like see my teacher and like listen to them while I'm like taking notes and that sort of thing. So I think that was extremely difficult, and not having my classmates like bounce ideas off of, and it was definitely different.
I am the same way. Like, I just admire you guys, like your whole like generation of classmates and people in your like position. Like, you guys have had to like pivot from learning in a classroom with humans on a chalkboard to people to learning at home on your sofa or in your room, on your bed, or at your desk, or in the kitchen table. I mean, you guys are freaking rock stars. I am so impressed with you guys. Is it harder to learn in a virtual setting than in person? Can you give me some examples? Because I literally have no experience learning virtually at all.
I think for me, virtual is a little bit more difficult because there's not necessarily that schedule of I have to be at this class at such and such time. I have to do this work during class, and there's not necessarily a teacher to like be on you if you're not doing your work. I think like it's easier to get distracted and you're not as focused on your work, and it's not necessarily as hard of work. Like the work that they give us, it's not complicated or like difficult. It's kind of just like there.
Haley, you were a heck of a lot more focused student than I was, or I would ever be, because if I had to take calculus in my boxers at home at my desk in my second floor, I would be on Instagram, on TikTok, and Snapchat, and I would not be learning. So you are amazing. I don't know how you're doing this. If I didn't have the teacher on me, I don't think I would get my stuff done. I mean, I'm so impressed. I mean, is that a legit situation, do you think?
I think so. A lot of students that were in my class, they weren't as focused, so obviously like they weren't going to get their work done on time that they were supposed to, but we had like a weird kind of layover window that was like you can submit your work by like May 29th, or you can submit it by like July something. So like the students that didn't do it, they still could do it, but they didn't really have like anything set in stone. But as long as you kind of did it, then you got your grade.
I'll tell you what, wishing you the luck. Where are you going to play college softball?
I'm not sure yet. I'm still just kind of looking. I've still got a little bit of time before I have to make a decision, so I'm just kind of.
You know who is one of my favorite people in the world, and I think she's probably standing in the room next to you, is your grandmother, Barbara Lundgren.
Yeah, she's in the other room right now.
Godmother. Do you know how popular your grandmother is in Charlottesville? No, seriously, she is like the woman about town. Can I chat with Barbara? You killed this interview, by the way. Thank you so much for joining us. You were amazing. Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Can I chat with Barbara?
Yeah. Grammy.
Oh, I love Grammy. What's she doing over there?
Let me see if I can
Okay,
grab her. I'll be
okay,
right
that
back.
sounds good. I would love to see you get Barbara on. Haley, you killed it, Haley. You were amazing.
you.
She was amazing. All right, maybe we're asking. Oh, there's Barbara. Barbara,
There she is.
your granddaughter's amazing.
Yes, she is. I told
She
you.
just killed that interview. Seriously, she was amazing.
Yes.
What's good with you, Barb?
I'm very, very proud. Anytime you want to talk about any of my grandchildren, we're available.
I'm going to take you up on that. I have a feeling there's going to be a new show on the I Love CVille network. It's going to be called The Lundgren Offspring.
Let me tell you about
Let me tell you about
my
your grandchildren. Yeah. And I'm sure you have
can
enough
bring
stories
everybody on
to
with
fill
their
a show. Oh.
Yes, I'm very proud of Hayley. She's always been a rock star. Always.
Well, thank you for
Always.
setting up this interview. Very quickly, how about your show? What do we have on the docket for tomorrow?
Tomorrow we are going to have Steve and Jason from MS Events, the owners of MS Events, which is another rock star in the community on rentals and lighting and all types of things. And they're going to tell us what's going on in their COVID world and how they've grown over the years. And also Barbara joins from Valley Road Vineyards. So that's a boutique vineyard that also does events, and they have some weddings coming up, so we're going to talk to them.
Virginia Wedding and Event Showcase tomorrow, 10:15 a.m., starring Barbara Lundgren of Barb Wired and Keswick Vineyards on the I Love CVille network. So, Barbara, the toughest question I'm going to ask you. Did you go to Charlesville High School?
I went to Lane.
So, Barbara...
I was the last graduating class of Lane.
Okay, you were the last graduating...
Which is now the county office.
Okay. So,
yes.
Barbara Lundgren... a rising senior at Lane against Hayley Shifflett, rising senior at Monticello. Who is the better softball player?
Jerry. No, that is a tough question. No, Hayley is the rock star.
Okay,
not me.
Hayley, tell her she did great. And
I went to the School of Hard Knocks.
Me too. I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Absolutely, we're looking forward to it, and thank you for having Hayley and letting me be so proud.
It was great. She killed it. You have a good one, Barbara. Barbara Lundgren, guys, the grandmother of Hayley Shifflett. I love that interview, and props to Hayley. Really impressed with what she has cooking with her future, and I'm excited to spotlight. You know what? This is what it really comes down to. If anyone, especially impressionable teenagers, if anyone sets their mind to a goal and works year-round, and this could be sports, it could be debate, it could be getting a scholarship for academics, it could be wrestling, whatever. If anyone sets their mind to something and works year-round to accomplish that goal, especially in a time like COVID, I want to salute them and give them props and champion them and put them on a pedestal. Because dudes and ladies, can you imagine going into your senior year of high school, your best year of high school, you're not sure if you're going to have in-person classes, you're not sure if sports are going to be held at all. You play sports your whole life in a lot of cases. You're not sure if you're going to see your friends in person. What about prom? What about prom? Are we going to have prom? Are we going to have prom? So does that mean this class lost their junior prom and their senior prom? I mean, can you think of a generation of students in the history of I can think of one other generation of students. I can't think of, except for this other generation of students, a group of kids or a generation of kids that have had to adapt or be more resilient than these, except for times of segregation and integration when black students across America were being integrated into white schools and the challenges and tribulations that they went through in this integration process of education that is much, much more significant challenges than the COVID-19 challenges. They're not comparable. But in the history of American education, can you tell me, besides segregation going into integration times, besides those times which were monumental and cannot be characterized the challenges they faced, can you tell me a more challenging path for education than what kids now are going through? I can't. Start school last year in person. Get school cut in the spring semester. Go learn at home. Take your calculus in the broom closet. Take your history in the bedroom. You got to take your geography in the next to the bubble bath. Oh, you got English? Make sure you're studying English in the half bathroom next to the living room. Oh, wait, Johnny's on a virtual tour with his teacher in his class over here at 3 o'clock. Susie, you got to get off the internet because it's making Johnny's lesson plan buffer. And when the lessons plan buffer and they can't come in, Johnny can't keep up with Susie Q in the 3rd grade because you're on the internet over here and you're making the bandwidth struggle. Okay? Get Ting Fiber Internet's going to solve that problem for you. I love CVille.ting.com. Save $288. First month's free. Installation free. Get that link on screen. I mean, that's a phenomenal deal, by the way. Fiber Internet, and you're getting a first month free. And you're getting free installation. I mean, I can't think of another time besides the integration, segregation times that students have gone through more stuff. I mean, it's just... And then you're talking about public schools not being accredited through 2022? So, challenging times, the most challenging times in the history of public schools since integration, COVID-19, and at the same time of those challenges, you're taking away the governing body that offers accountability and governance and holds the school systems accountable to make sure they're performing at the right clip. I mean, this is a collision. This is a clash. This is a collision of a lot of things happening at one time that could be catastrophic. I mean, that's frank. Next headline's from Uconn. I want to get that on screen. We're going to have a few sports-oriented headlines. I'm getting a lot of feedback from people that are loving the integration of UVA and Virginia Tech and the ACC into the show. Sports is my background. I'm happy to do it. It's in my blood. It's why I became a journalist in the first place, was to go and cover sports for a living. The reality set in, and that when you're covering sports for a living, you're sitting in a press box with a bunch of old, fat, white guys, and none of you are eating fried chicken from Wayside, and none of you are drinking Minutemen from Dave Warwick and Three Notch, and none of you are drinking and sneaking Angel's Envy into Scott Stadium. Instead, you have spiral notebooks in your hand, and you're staying for 2 hours after the game, filing a story while everybody else is having fun, and then the allure of being the sports journalist goes away, frankly. Uconn is now the first FBS program to cancel its football season. Uconn, the Huskies, have been struggling in football anyway. 2020, they are not playing football. They are the first to announce it from the big boys. The Uconn athletic department is freaking hemorrhaging money. And why Uconn's athletic department is hemorrhaging money, it's very clear. It's because their football team sucks. You make your money in sports and you make your money in college athletics through football and basketball. And lately, Uconn, its football team has been no bueno. And its basketball team, especially since Jim Calhoun left, its basketball team has struggled. The athletic department since 2008 has generated, in 2008, according to data filed with the NCAA, Uconn generated only $79 million in revenue. Of that $79 million, only $2.4 million came from football ticket sales. That's a problem if you're going to run a successful athletic department. You need football to perform well. $2.4 million of $79.3 million total revenue in 2018 coming from the pigskin admission. That's not good. I expect more FBS teams to close or to announce that in 2020 they're not going to play football. The next headline comes from the National Football League. And how about the Washington football team? Yes, it's the Washington football team signing Dontrell Inman. Dontrell Inman played in Charlottesville at the University of Virginia from 2007 to 2010. He is now a Washington Redskin. For his career, Dontrell Inman has appeared in 75 games with 170 catches, 2,282 yards, and 11 touchdowns. Dontrell Inman is fighting for a starting spot with the Washington football team and Ron Rivera, the new head football coach. Welcome Dontrell Inman to the Washington football team. And guys, remember Joe Harris? Joe Harris and the UVA men's basketball team. I think he is the only basketball player I have seen the ladies swoon more for, Joe Harris, than Tony Bennett. Outside of Joe Harris, has there been a player on the men's basketball team that has gotten the attention of the ladies away from Tony Bennett and toward a player? Joe Harris was able to do that. The ladies love Tony Bennett in Charlottesville, Virginia. The ladies love. I mean, if you're watching right now and you're a lady, do you not think Tony Bennett is a handsome guy? I mean, I'm a host of the I Love CVille show. I can admit Tony Bennett's a handsome guy. Joe Harris plays for the Brooklyn Nets. He is having a fantastic year, the former UVA basketball star who played for Tony Bennett, a guy from Washington. He's having a fantastic year for the Brooklyn Nets in a contract year. He went bananas the other night in a victory, and for the season, he's averaging 14 points a game and shooting 41% from downtown. Why is this important to Joe Harris? Well, a guy who's very similar to Joe Harris on the basketball court is J.J. Redick. J.J. Redick signed a contract with the New Orleans Pelicans to the tune of 2 years and $26.5 million smackaroos. Joe Harris, that is a legit contract comparable for Joe. J.J. Redick's 2-year, $26.5 million contract with the Pelicans. So Joe, in a contract year, was he Mr. Basketball for Washington? This was a big-time recruit for Tony. When he came to Charlottesville and he left the West Coast, and he came to CVille, he brought Joe Harris with him. This was a big-time recruit and a guy that really helped Tony build this program in CVille. Joe, in a contract year, is if things go according to plan, is looking like he could be getting some J.J. Redick money. And that dude deserves it. He's gone from being a spot-up sharpshooter to being a guy that can attack the rack off the dribble drive. He has a mid-range game. He can play a little defense. He can run the court well. I mean, he's really made his game well-rounded. Kudos and props to Joe Harris. And, dude, how about Tony's team in the NBA, dudes? I mean, Malcolm Brogdon with the Pacers. You got Joe with the Nets. I mean, these boys are playing. Justin Anderson is playing with the Brooklyn Nets right now. He had a monster game on Tuesday off the bench against the Wizards. I mean, Mike Scott's still hanging around, right? Anthony Gill is playing overseas. We got some talent out there. Anthony Gill is overseas, and he's got talent. Jack Salt's overseas in Australia. Tony's team, Tony's boys playing some pro basketball and earning a living. That dude is... I mean, I'm going to straight up say it. He's my favorite coach at UVA. Brian O'Connor, a close second. I love you, Brian O'Connor. You know I love you, Brian O'Connor. Love you, Brian O'Connor. I love Dom Starsia. I loved Brian Bolin. Miss Dom Starsia and Brian Bolin tremendously. Tony's my favorite coach. I mean, look at what he's doing. This is the I Love CVille show. Thank you for joining us. Any comments we will get to now. Tomorrow's show is going to be lively as well. We had a phenomenal conversation with Anwar Allen. And tomorrow, Anwar and his wife, Laura, are going to join us. And they are hosting a pod. They are, as parents, the ringleaders of an educational pod that formed from a Baptist church in the neighborhood. A Baptist church they don't even go to. So we're going to sit down and spend 15, 20 minutes with a mom and a dad that are leading a pod. I mean, I love it. I love it. We'll spend some time with them tomorrow. Lauren says Uconn's football stadium is also not on campus. As a grad of Uconn, that's why we never went to the football games. That's from Lauren about Uconn. Uconn closing its football team, or at least temporarily halting the football team for 2020. We'll see if football gets moved to the spring, but I severely doubt it. This is coming from Steven. Jerry, I'm watching in Crozet. I love your show. Thank you for having Hayley on the program. She's a very talented softball player. I've seen her play many times. Linda Smith Birch says, I love you, Hayley. You did a great job. Sharonda Foley says, way to go, Hayley. You were fantastic. Donna Madison Spencer says, Barbara Lundgren, you should be a proud grandmother. Vanessa Parkhill says, World War II, young men foregoing school to enlist, Vietnam era. Could you be drafted before? Okay, so Vanessa Parkhill, that's good stuff right there from Vanessa Parkhill. So we were comparing and contrasting being a student, say you're a rising senior now, to the most challenging times in educational history in America. And I said the most challenging were the African American students that were asked to integrate into white schools and the hatred that they went through. I said that's the top in the barometer. I think we're all in agreement there. Vanessa says, Jerry, don't forget about World War II. Young men were foregoing going back to school to enlist into the military. And then she asked, in the Vietnam era, could you be drafted before graduating high school? That's a good question about drafting before graduating high school. Oh, Gary Grant has something to say on that. Gary Grant on Vanessa Parkhill. Gary Grant, I love when you chime in, Gary Grant. World War II drafted away from their senior year to be sent abroad with a gun to face bullets coming at them. Well said, Gary Grant. All right, guys, stop the presses. Seniors in public schools that have to go from in-person learning to virtual learning. Seniors and juniors at public schools in 2020 that are asked to learn calculus in the broom closet, AP English on the kitchen table, AP English on the back stoop, and AP US history in the half bathroom toilet with the laptop resting on their knees. You guys, you have it easy compared to the senior in high school that got drafted out of public schools, was given a machine gun, and was sent to Germany to face live bullets and asked to stay alive. I stand corrected. Thank you, Vanessa Parkhill and Gary Grant. This is worse than COVID-19. So if you're feeling bummed about not having prom at Albemarle High School, or if you're feeling bummed about not having prom at Western Albemarle, at least you were not little Johnny that was taken from Charlottesville, Virginia, put in some military fatigues, given a machine gun and a helmet, flown across the pond, dropped on a beach, and said, dodge those bullets and stay alive, sonny boy. That's much worse. Jamie Schwartz, Granola and Grandchildren. That's a morning show for Barbara Lundgren. Granola and Grandchildren. I like that, Jamie Schwartz. She's the star, the co-star of Women Changing Our World, which airs Mondays at 10:15 on the I Love CVille network. I also encourage you to follow Women Changing Our World on Facebook. They're doing a lot of live streaming on their Facebook page. That is fantastic. All right, I got to get out of here. I got to get back to work. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for liking and sharing the show. We are here tomorrow at 12:30 on the I Love CVille show. We're here tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. with Barbara Lundgren and the Virginia Wedding and Event Showcase. That show is bona fide. It's legit. It's banging. It's coming together. It's the real deal. It's packaged nicely. It presents well. It really tells a story. I love it. I love it. I love it. Barbara Lundgren, 10:15, Virginia Wedding and Event Showcase, mañana on the I Love CVille network. Hayley Shifflett, you were on fire. Someone tell Hayley Shifflett I said that again. Hayley, you crushed it. Your future is bright. It's obvious. I wish you the best of luck in softball and your career in life. I truly mean that. Thank you for joining us, guys. I'm Jerry Miller. It's the I Love CVille Show.